Welcome to Dr. Lotte's Science with Soul, the podcast that transcends the boundaries between science and spirituality. Prepare to be uplifted, transformed, and awakened to create a path to healing your own life physically, emotionally, and spiritually by bridging the gap between science and soul. So many people I work with say, I don't understand why this keeps happening. They've done the work, they've gained insight, and yet certain patterns still repeat. Anxiety that doesn't fully resolve, relationships that echo old wounds, or a sense that something deeper is asking to be healed. What if these patterns are echoes from the ancestral field? I'm Dr. Lotte Valentine. I'm a physician, ancestral healer, and creator of the Kindraya method. In my work, I've seen again and again that many of the struggles we carry are inherited, held in the nervous system, the energy body, and the ancestral field itself. Healing isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about bringing awareness to what's been waiting to be seen, sometimes for generations. I'm inviting you to join me for a free online gathering with the Shift Network called Healing Inherited Patterns Through the Kindraya Method. Activate superconscious senses to transform ancestral wounds. Happening this Sunday, February 8th. In this experience, I'll guide you into understanding how ancestral patterns live within us and how activating superconscious awareness opens the doorway to real lasting transformation. And if you can't join us on Sunday, you'll still receive access to the recording. It will be sent to you as you register. If something in you is quietly saying yes, if you sense that your healing matters, not just for you, but for those who came before and for those who come after, I would truly love to welcome you. You can register for free through the Shift Network by clicking the link in the show notes. This gathering also opens the door to deeper work beginning later this month. I would truly love to have you join me. Welcome to Dr. Lottie's Science with Soul. Today's guest is Christine Stevens, author of the Nature Sutras, Music Medicine, The Healing Drum Kit, and The Art and Heart of Drum Circles. The founder of Upbeat Drum Circles, she has appeared on NBC, PBS, KTLA, Discovery Health, Living Better TV, and is a faculty for the Shift Network. As a Remo artist, she has trained facilitators from more than 25 countries, including Iraq, China, Hong Kong, Japan, and Europe. Christine has worked with Fortune 500 companies, survivors of Katrina, students at Ground Zero, and led the first drum circle training in a war zone in northern Iraq. Her recent publication in Music and Medicine featured sound healing for pain reduction during COVID-19 in a free online clinic she pioneered. Her year-long Global Rhythm Sangha online course features cultural rhythms from master teachers each month. Christine offers a variety of online training programs and courses, including Awaken Your Rhythm and the Flute as Sound Healing, which has served hundreds of people from over 35 countries. Welcome, Christine. It's such an honor to have you as a guest today.
Thank you for having me.
And I can't wait for you to share your drumming experience and knowledge with the listeners. So how did you get into drumming? What is it that led you to this, path of music and healing and global connection? Was there anything specific that happened, or did you just come to the world this way?
I did come to the world playing music. Even as a child, my mom says when I was 2 years old, I cried and cried until they put me up on a piano bench. And then I didn't start piano lessons till I was 8. And a tip for the listeners, children can start music lessons immediately at age 2, 3, 4. Even before we have great motor skills, we can be learning music. We become in musical. I mean, I think there's a study. I love your theme here about the science and the spirituality. There's a study that all 2-year-olds make up songs without ever being taught how to do that. It's called the songwriting instinct. And, you've seen these if you've been around a 2-year-old. They're like, oh, it's now snowing, it's snowing. And they kind of like singing about life. And I mean, we're really born musical beings. Some cultures, your culture in Sweden, where you had songs and play songs and ceremonial songs and have more singing and drumming and playing. And sometimes in the West, music has become this entertainment, this quote unquote talent with a capital M, musician. And I feel like we've become consumers and not creators. And we just listen to music. And for me, it happened to find the drum after playing a lot of other instruments. It didn't happen until I was in college, actually. And I was taking my percussion exams as a music therapist, and I almost failed. And I left that experience thinking I didn't have rhythm. Until years later, I was with Don Campbell at an event, and we were all drumming in a drum circle, and like 3 hours went by like 10 minutes, and I put my hands on a conga drum, and I didn't think for 3 hours. I didn't know these people around me. They were all psychologists and, at this conference, mostly in the mental health side of your work. And what I felt was, I couldn't explain it. I didn't know their names, but we had just drummed together for a few hours. And I felt a love, a connection, a kindness. And years later, I tested that in my work in Iraq in a war zone between enemy groups that didn't speak the same language. And we found a 92% increase in the feeling of community. And so it's funny how life foreshadows a later application. So the short story is, it was that moment, putting my hand on a hand drum, not trying to read paradiddles and hold sticks as my classical training required me. All of a sudden, I felt this, visceral, kinesthetic. You can feel it just listening to this. And I just played, and I felt connected to these people. Thank you, Don Campbell, for bringing that into your presentation that day. And I think that after that, I bought a lot of drums. I put them into my music therapy practice with dual diagnosis patients. I was treating really complicated disorders at the time, multiple personality disorders. And I really worked hard for a real decade at studying world rhythms. To the degree that I studied, Egyptian drumming and Afro-Cuban and Afro-Brazilian and congas and djembes and frame drums. And I started a drum circle company and quit my music therapy career and dedicated my life to the field of wellness and prevention and preventive health. I wanted to be on the other side of these conditions. I wanted to bring the drum to people who could maintain their health. And I could feel that people were missing it. I feel like this is important. This is missed in our culture today. We have a lot of illnesses, we treat illnesses, but I'm interested in the root of that. And when we drum together, we make a bond. And this has been shown in a great study I can mention whenever you want, but I don't want to blah, 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 because the point is that what called me to the drum, and I feel like it calls everyone, even you have a beautiful drum, you have a number of drums there, is that I think the drum shows up when people are transforming. It is the Big Bang. It is this voice of change. It is the sound of, I'm ready to move forward. And I was ready to go in a new direction. And that was a fabulous moment in my life. I started Upbeat Drum Circles, and here I am today.
I love it. It's such a great story how you came into the world. You already had the music. It just took a little longer to find the drum, right? And it's so interesting because I laugh when you're telling your story because I was always loved drums since I was a little kid. I begged my parents for a drum set, but I think they said no because they would have gone crazy. So I used to take the metal mixing bowls from my mom's kitchen, and then I used to tape paper around it, and then I would use all different like whisks and things from the kitchen,
Oh,
and then I would
nice.
make everybody watch me. I was probably 6, 7 years old, and I would dress up and I would have my little drum performance. So anyway, I would go in and out of these stages, and it wasn't until and then you mentioned the transformation. I graduated from med school 2016, went to Arthur Fields College to study a mediumship 2017. And then worked with a shaman for my first time that year. And then the second year, that's when the drums began. So it's really interesting because it was exactly in that transformation of stepping into the spiritual component of why I incarnated into this life in the first place. But it was always there, right, from the beginning. So it's interesting how life takes us on these journeys. And I just love your story of it wasn't ready. It wasn't supposed to happen until later. Right. And then it all came in and you learned about the drum. So what does science show us about drumming as a tool, for healing, peacemaking, and consciousness shifting?
Yeah, great question. But first, I have to say, I love your story. And I mean, I think a lot of people begin their music journey in the kitchen and in the shower, where we sing and where we play drums. And during the pandemic, I did a lot of these Zoom drum programs, and I developed this 2-minute icebreaker, and I called it the kitchen band. And I would say, go to your kitchen, you have 1 minute, and bring back an instrument. And there was I never thought to put the paper on those, but there was so much creativity and unique sounds of the kitchen. And then it puts people at ease because we're just, scared. The other thing I have to say, I love that you found your way of your combination is amazing. Scientific, mediumship, and then shamanic. And I used to speak a lot at these medical conferences in San Diego with Dr. Mimi Grieri and all those American Holistic Medical Association programs, Dr. Andrew Weil. Some of these great leaders at the time really appreciated the drumming, and they invited me to bring these drum circles. And I thought, what am I going to get doctors to drum? And I will tell you that the first 5 minutes, they just kind of looked at me. And then in 10 minutes or so, they were fighting over drums. And, all that med school training stress, I could have sworn I was at Burning Man. I was like, where am I? These people are going wild. People were dancing. And there was a lot of diversity in the group. So there were cultural people who had, a rhythm in their soul from India or from Egypt or Africa. And there was just in Latin American. And I was always just feeling that I would begin my presentation with this slide. This is relevant to our conversation today, that all the doctors, all the medicine men and women carried a drum. And it's really bringing the drum back to the medical field. And also, when you think about drumming, it's been tested on human subjects for 60,000 years.
Wow.
It's very well documented. Mm-hmm. However, you asked about the modern science. It's great that in 2000, Dr. Barry Bittman, a psychoneuroimmunologist who was studying mind-body medicine in a very rural town in Pennsylvania, did the first blood sample study on group drumming. I was lucky to help a little bit with that study, and found after 111 subjects that we were able to reverse cellular biology markers of stress through 1 hour of group drumming. However, we tested 5 kinds of drumming, and the first 4 failed. And the first one was drum circle, everybody just banging away together. And then the second one was impact drumming, play more, play stronger. And the third one was shamanic drumming, where they just listened to a shaman and they played along. And the fourth was this, listening control condition, resting condition. But then we found our way to a protocol. And this is the exciting thing about the science of drumming, is that we can't just say it heals you. There was a specific protocol, because these people were not self-selecting. These people were chosen because they never had a musical experience prior. So they walked into a room of drums and were, not exactly excited. What if I play a wrong note? And what we were realizing was that performance anxiety was reversing the outcomes we were looking for. So they became more stressed. So we just made a protocol for the first 10 minutes. There's breathing, visualization. Then there's how to play the drum, how to hold the drum. Then there's drum your name, Christine Stevens. And everybody drumming your name is powerful. Christine Stevens, And we would ask, who needs support today in your healing journey? Mm-hmm. Let's all drum your name. Mm-hmm. And then we get a beat going and do a lot of that sort of entrainment, healing rhythms, jamming rhythms. People ask me a lot, what's the most healing rhythm? And I definitely think it's the heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And if you start from the heartbeat, which love, dove, and then you add to it, it starts to become a groove. And just getting people freer and freer, and people would move. And then we added guided imagery drumming. And I wouldn't call this shamanic journeying, but we know medically that when we envision, getting rid of cancer cells or feeling in our body a bright yellow golden light, we know that visualization, Bella Ruth Napperstein, changes our biology. It really does. So we combine the visualization with the drumming. It would just be, we're going to go drum at the beach now and watch the sunset, and feel the dolphins jumping while you drum. And the last step that was really important was doing a wellness exercise at the end, where you put down your drum and you put your hand on your heart and you know that you have a drum. Mm-hmm. And you thank that inner drum, and breathing into that drum and sharing any changes you felt in the hour of drumming together. And this was so successful. It was published in 2000. Dr. Bernie Siegel adopted this into all of his cancer programs. I went to some of Bernie's retreats and drumming with people. And then Bernie would say, what haven't you been able to say to your cancer? Say it on your drum. I mean, it was just powerful. So that became the format, which we called Health Rhythms. And then we have 5 or 6 replicated studies with different disease populations. And then I did a different version of that, more of a sound healing protocol during the pandemic, and was able to reduce pain, stress, and anxiety at a significant level with 170 people on Zoom, 30-minute sessions on Zoom. So that's the story of how much we've documented it scientifically. And I know you also honor the spiritual side. And in my world travels, it started in Japan, where I saw this big taiko drum in a temple. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So the drum is part of the church. I mean, I grew up in a church with an organ and a choir and a piano. And I worked with the Lost Boys from Sudan, and they had drums in their church. And I was like, so we see how much the drum helps us with our physical side, our, psychoneuroimmunology, our mind, body, spirit, and especially that spiritual side, where this doesn't mean you're a pagan. This doesn't mean you're a Hindu, or a Tibetan. It's just to say that heartbeat is a path to the divine. And it is an instrument like many instruments that offer devotion, that maintain a connection, especially to the earth. And I think that earthing connection of rhythm Rhythm is really an element of the earth. And I think the last thing I'd like to say is that it's a hot topic now is addiction. And pain medication and fentanyl, all these addictive substances. And what I found in working with people with dual diagnosis and addictions disorders was that the drum, people felt very stuck and in a lot of shame. You know, in that map of consciousness, shame is under 200. It's a very debilitating energy. And guilt and blame. And gratitude starts to, bring us higher. And when the drum beat would start, people, it's pretty irresistible. You can hardly hold still. I mean, it's physiological, it's entrainment. And slowly, these people would start drumming together. And I tell you that it was the first step forward. And then I researched the definition of rhythm is the element of music pertaining to forward motion.
Makes sense. So how did you, in terms of, we talked about people who are addicted to drugs and things like that. What about people who are in pain or like chronic pain? What do you know about drumming? Would that be beneficial for those people?
That's a great question in my work during the COVID pandemic, because I'm switching drums here. That was, I've decided there's really 4 main drums for healing in my practice. This first drum, if you're listening or not seeing, you get to use your ears to see it. It's an elk hide, a hand drum. So the weaving on the back allows me to hold it. I can turn it towards my body to feel its vibrational healing, drum massage. And the second drum that I find is very healing is this frame drum. One of the oldest drums, believed to be invented from the grain sieve in the Tigris Euphrates. And I use this a lot for pain reduction, mostly singing across the drum and then combining that with healing mantras. I'll give you a sample.
Yeah.
Now, imagine that going for 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So I studied people and I found that at 4 minutes, people entrain. So I went for 8 minutes with this drum and the other drum. And then the other drum that I used is the ocean drum. Now, this is during COVID and people were in a lot of pain. They were usually laying in their bed, and so I had them put earbuds in or headphones on. But then if I play this soft, beautiful ocean drum and just sing a little bit, or even just play the drum, the ocean. And I found that this drum was very, very powerful for people with grief, complicated grief. They had lost a loved one during COVID and hadn't been able to go say goodbye to them. And then the last drum to show you that I played a lot for people with long haul and people who have fibromyalgia, or their pain was so debilitating that they felt scared to move and kind of frozen, or they felt a lot of fatigue. And that is the djembe, which is a West African Ivory Coast drum that I found that this drum, and I researched, my friend Sule Greg Wilson wrote a book about the drummer's path. Like, the djembe is a real healing drum. I have to turn the volume down a little because it's a loud drum by nature. You can feel this. Well, maybe we can just do this quick practice. What do you think?
Sure. What?
I called it the rhythm diagnostic. So you're going to hold still while I drum on the djembe, and you're going to wait and notice where you feel the rhythm in your body.
Okay.
And so we had people do this because everybody has, you talk a lot about this on your fabulous podcast, is the individualized medicine. We have, and in your case, you're treating, lifetimes. So I love that about your work. So in this case, I felt like if I just drum and if you hold still, you're going to override the tendency to tap your foot and bop your head. And in that holding still, you actually will feel the individualized place where the rhythm is needed in your body. And then we invite people to put their hand there or just move with the rhythm, subtle movement. And I had so many people say to me, oh my God, I had a hip replacement 2 years ago and the rhythm was in my hip,
Right.
or it was in my head. And I've been obsessing about, some person who gave me COVID, I'm mad at them, or, it was like, even it would be like in a finger that they'd had an old injury in, or, so I feel like there's something about this drum, this African djembe. And also I think what you'll feel when you hold still right now and just notice in your body where you feel the rhythm. What I really felt is that this drum's gift is the energy of uplifting. And we need that. We need that. We have a very, I feel like, kind of limited society. And I mean, I've been in these places in Africa or in Brazil and in my travels where, people are just dancing and drumming, even in Iraq. So that said, let's do the practice. So just hold still until you feel it and you know where that is in your body. And you can do this, everybody listening, and you'll do this with me. Here we go.
That was great. It's so
All right.
interesting where you feel it. I'm going to say I felt it on my lumbar spine, like across the SI joints in that level.
And
So interesting.
what does that mean to you?
Um, well, I'm going to say, well, I just did a really long driving trip. So I just drove drove to Colorado and back, and came back like 2 days ago. So I'm going to say from that's probably where all my stress is from all that sitting and driving right now. That's kind of where I feel it. And it went all the way across, kind of out to the hips. It was like a band
Wow.
across. So it's really interesting. That's probably where my body is the most tired. That's what I'm thinking right now from that driving. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
And you can then get up and move with a drum beat, and
Right.
I think that's what motion is lotion. And what I found was leaving that space in the beat really helps people feel the groove.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I would start really slow and
Mm-hmm.
incrementally speed up.
Mm-hmm.
And people that had been really debilitated with long haul and in a lot of pain and fatigue would tell me that the rhythm would just like excite their cells. And these
Right.
were not people that were necessarily drummers, right? They just went to my free clinic because they had COVID. And they just said, like, it kind of woke up my cells. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a good medicine of rhythm. And everybody can do this. I mean, you have drums there, right?
Right. I know it is so easy because it's so readily available to everyone. And it's just like you said in the beginning, we have lost that connection to music. We're just listening to music, but we're not creating it. So it's a whole different thing when you actually create the music versus just playing your favorite music on, whatever, Spotify, right? It's different.
And it's not easy to learn an instrument. I mean, it really isn't. I
Mm-hmm.
understand that. But that's why I love the drums, because I've seen babies, little kids in
Yeah.
playing at drum circles, and I feel like it's the instrument that it doesn't matter if you sing out of key, or it doesn't matter if you can't, play the right note on the piano. It has this forgiving, primal, medicinal,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual healing and preventive health, because I really feel like, how do I get this in my lifestyle to go to a drum circle, to take my drum out in Sedona and play at the sunrise?
Yeah.
Such a potent practice of being healthy, artistic health, I think,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of feeling of creativity and that feeling of fun and joy and movement. It's good
So,
for us.
right. So, I mean, for all the people that are listening to us talking about the drums and hearing the drumming and, feeling, wow, I would like to do that. Where do they start? What do they do? Do they just go to Target and buy a drum, or do they, what advice do you have for people who are listening? How do they begin?
Well, how you probably could say, how did you find your drum?
Me?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I worked with a shaman. And then that was another
that's
shaman that was making drums. So I
that's
ordered a drum from
beautiful.
him. Um, yeah, but then, there are other drums. I got another drum from the music store.
Yep. I
So,
have a page on my website on the blog of recommended drums. I often send people to the Remo drums because they're
mhm,
made eco-friendly. They
mhm,
don't get affected by the weather conditions. And
mhm,
I like to start people on a Bahia Buffalo drum.
mhm,
It's the one that you hold your hand and play with a mallet. It's
mhm,
affordable. And I attended a beautiful Native American ceremony in Yellowstone last summer, for the White Buffalo Calf Woman ceremony with Chief Orville Looking Horse.
mhm,
And as they marched in with him in a processional, the lead drummer was carrying the Remo Bahia Buffalo drum. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. And I talked to him about it. He said, well, where I live, the drums break if I have to carry this one because it never loses its sound in a sweat lodge or in a ceremony.
mhm.
I said, wow, I never thought I was going to see that in a Native American ceremony. So also having a real hide. I have a real hide drum, and then I have synthetic ones. And I think those are good starter drums. And it's significant. You know, I got my first drum before I really knew how to play it or use it. I
Mm-hmm.
just bought it in a shop. It was actually in a shop that that used hides to make lamps in Utah, and I just bought it. And then, you know, years later, I was like, "Oh, I have this drum." And you know, it's funny when I buy other hide drums, this drum gets upset. It's like, this is the medicine
Yeah.
drum.
Right.
And this is very powerful. I want to be buried with this drum or cremated with this drum.
Right.
It's been my soul drum. I've taken it to many ceremonies, and I feel very grateful for that day I purchased it in my not knowing why. I feel like there's more and more drums available now, you know, in
Mm-hmm.
stores.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at this question you had about consciousness, if we really are awakening and evolving, what I feel is the role of the drum
Mm-hmm.
is that there's a theory that our species, our human species, evolved from apes
Mm-hmm.
through shared muscular bonding of entrainment.
Mm-hmm.
That entrainment, it's a book called Keeping Together in Time, that entrainment evolves us.
Mm-hmm.
And why is this drumming so popular now? I mean, I've been in this field for 30 years and it's just, you know, quadrupled. It's like I can find a drum circle when I'm traveling in Panama. I can find one in Mexico. I can definitely find one in Sedona 2 times a week.
Right.
And people have drums. Drums are coming around. And thanks to Arthur Hall, this whole drum circle movement. And I feel like that is our evolution, is that it is going to require us to be together in time. That entrainment is no small thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the weevolution. It's more of an evolution. It's the joining and coming together and finding our shared heartbeat. And even in my work in Iraq, where people were enemies and couldn't speak the same language, and then were hugging each other and crying after 5 days in a place where Muslim men are never showing emotion. And I knew that that was significant, that effect, because of the entrainment. Entrainment, which means the joining, synchronizing
Mm-hmm.
of beats, like the pendulum studies or the geese flying in rhythm. And what we know is that when we're in training, we feel more compassion, kindness towards the other people with us. So I just feel like there's so many aspects of where humanity could go to create more love, harmony, and beauty that feels like the drum beat is part of that journey in my prayer and my hope. And I saw it in Iraq. I saw it working with the Lost Boys of Sudan. I've been in a lot of disaster areas in my work, and I keep seeing that bond that gets created. I worked at Columbine High School after the shooting a year later, and I saw these parents and children crying. Not children, they were
Mm-hmm.
seniors in the library, but they were drumming on a powwow drum together, and they were looking across the drum at each other and breaking into tears. And I said, "Do you guys want to stop the beat?" I said, "No, no, no, don't stop." It's that no words needed, just a feeling tone of who we are as a species and what we're capable of when we really do wake up through the drum.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating because drums are everywhere, right? In the whole world. It's been there for so long. Now there are all these different tones of the drums, right? You get the kind of lighter tone, medium tone, lower tone. In terms of if somebody is listening and say, I want a drum, but how do I know what? Do I want a higher tone, lower tone? What advice do you have for people?
That's great. And you know, you live near the famous Museum of Making Music in Phoenix,
Yep.
that'll convince you that the world is all about drums.
Yes. It's a huge museum.
So
Just
beautiful
huge.
place.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I do feel like that this starting with this shaman drum, as you said, which is a hand drum. But some people are called to the African drum, and it's possible that you've had a lifetime in the past in Africa, or I feel like such a resonance with Native American culture. I'm not trying to be an Indian person, but it's just that I feel like a real connection there, and I wonder if I've had something in my past life about that. So there's no telling why you feel a resonance. The best thing is to go and listen online and listen to your own drums, going to different shops and listening. But even just in this program, I wanted to present those 4 choices. So if you heard the quality of the African djembe and the frame drum, which is a very different quality, and those qualities can call to us. And ultimately, I just carry all of them because I feel like you'll find this interesting, that this buffalo drum feels like my earth energy. So I feel like if people need more grounding, you're called to the drum for your energy, your preventive medicine, your wellness of grounding, which is a big part of enlightenment because, you can be enlightened, but you're here on the earth. So we want to stay grounded in our bodies. And then you have this frame drum, which to me is the air element. It has this is a very ancient feminine drum. It was drummed in the Temple of the Moon. Our first drummer whose name we know is Lipashu in Sumerian writing, 2000 BC, drumming in the Temple of the Moon in the myth of Inanna, probably playing a frame drum. Miriam crossing the Red Sea and picked up her frame drum. This is a very sacred drum. Even when I was in Iraq, the Sufis play this drum. And it has this trancey quality. Doom talk, doom talk, doom talk, doom talk, doom talk, doom talk, doom. Yeah. And then the ecstatic. La ilaha illallah.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
And then that singing, toning sound.
I
So
love how
that is a drum to, sorry, go ahead.
No, I love how the sound just sort of glides across the surface of the drum.
It was probably the first microphone was singing across the drum.
Right? It makes sense.
Or maybe a cave. And then if you have that energy towards a djembe, this is a special drum. I think I probably really took to the djembe and the doumbek, these goblet-shaped drums, early in my studies, because you get this incredible low and high. And it's also goat skin, or the congas, which are cow. And it has that high and low pitches that are so powerful in composition. So I kind of feel like if you're a more musical person, and I think of this as my fire energy, because if I'm depressed or if I'm pissed, I just take it to that djembe, And then the last one being the ocean drum, which to me is the water. So I guess in a way, I've collected these 4 drums and used them in my practice in that kind of recognition of balancing the elements and, This is really good for relaxation, for closing my eyes, and I love singing to it. Life is definitely full of waves, right?
Right. I love it. It's similar to like a rain stick where,
Yes.
right, you can
Rain
it's so
stick is
relaxing.
so powerful.
Yeah. So you mentioned something about a study. So what studies have been done on drumming and music?
Well, a lot of the research has looked at group drumming and how that can modulate the immune system and actually increase gamma interferon and cytokine activity. These are the circulating white blood cells that seek out and destroy virus cells. And so this is a really good immune boosting aspect. We also know that we've studied the exercise component, that when you drum, you are burning calories. It actually had the same metabolic unit burned as a reclining bicycle.
Oh, that's
That was playing a
interesting.
djembe, so that the hands are above the heart and you're alternating your hands. And we've actually tried this with people in wheelchairs, having them play that cubano, djembe, two-handed drumming.
Right.
And this is very popular in Japan right now with the seniors for health, because they can play this great rhythm from Japan, Taiko Matsuri, doon, 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 kakaga, doon, 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 kakakaka, doon. And they all know this rhythm. And I've seen this happen in Japan. And the other study that I did in the COVID was playing the drums for people. And I combined it with the Native American flute and was able to show a reduction in stress, anxiety, and pain. And when I did this work in Iraq, I studied how drumming could create peace. And this was published in the United Nations Compendium of Music as a Global Resource. And we were able to show a 92% improvement in the feeling of community with 40 people in 5 days of drum circle. So that then was a great demonstration and people were very resistant to doing this program. They weren't signed up to meet people from, the war zone against their tribe and their people. Their fathers definitely would have fought each other and a generation ago. So that was a really intense experience for me, and finding that it worked so well and seeing that is another field test of this tool. Currently, we're running a project in Kyiv during the war in Ukraine. We have a drum circle going in the Children's Hospital in Kyiv and 2 other satellite hospitals. And we just started through Rhythm Aid Ukraine, through Drumstrong, we just started testing drumming with the soldiers returning from the war. They have a 3-week recovery program in Kyiv, in Ukraine. And we're now bringing the drums into that program with 3 trained facilitators. And we're working on what kind of protocol can we use to help people, children in this war zone who are orphaned, whose illnesses are untreated due to bombing and these conditions. And it's been so popular for morale. And I've seen a lot of the videos of the kids, and I feel like it really has been inspiring them to help each other and feel connected.
That's really fascinating. Have you ever come across somebody who didn't like a certain tone of a drum, or feeling overwhelmed by the drumming?
For sure. The universal symbol is when people put their hands over their ears. And we found when we worked with Alzheimer's patients that it could be counterindicated. It made them more agitated. So it's definitely a personal preference. I have hardly found people that don't enjoy the buffalo drum, the shaman drum. The djembe, sometimes I do feel like people can get agitated by it. Doesn't really help people who they're psychotic. Or I have also experienced where some people leave a drum circle and they are not grounded and they can dangerously drive on a freeway.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned to really always close my drum circles by having people feel their toe roots in the earth,
Yeah.
playing a heartbeat, having them put down their drums. I have had people that can't keep a beat. I
Mm-hmm.
had this one girl come who couldn't keep a beat, and I tested her, and I found that when I blindfolded her and she didn't have her eyes open, her drumming greatly improved. So I also found that she started beats but couldn't copy other people's beats. And, it's one of those mysteries. I don't know why or what that means. It
Yeah.
just means she has rhythm. She
Yes.
has her rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
She's not able to maybe follow
Mm-hmm.
others as well as she's able to start the beat.
Yeah.
So I always say that if you can't find the beat, first of all, remember that it takes 4 minutes to entrain. And I think we try and we give up.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I couldn't get it. It's like
Yeah.
it takes time. And the second thing is closing our eyes
Mm-hmm.
and allowing our ears to be the predominant sense. So much of our lives are run by the visual, is to really allow those ears to guide us.
Yeah. I mean, it's really fascinating. It makes me think back, being born and raised in Sweden, in Northern Europe. We have music education in our schools. So from 4th through 9th grade, it's mandatory to go through 9th grade. High school is optional over there. At least it was when I grew up. But we had music education with, professional music teacher once a week. And thinking back when you're talking about that, it's interesting because I remember there were kids that really struggled with the beat, and then there were others, like myself, who we could do almost anything. We just loved, the music, the drumming, the singing, whatever. But I remember, thinking back how it's so difficult for some of them to do anything, like you said, repeat the pattern or moving in rhythm. It's really interesting how we come also, was that because I came to the world that way and there was always music in my house. We, played musical instruments. Was it just my upbringing, or did those people not just come to the world with rhythm? What
Well,
do you feel?
there is a scientific answer to that,
Mm-hmm.
and it has to do with the wiring of
Mm-hmm.
the music intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
which is the soft wiring until age 9. So I always tell people, if you started any kind of music lesson before age 9, you'll know your corpus callosum will be better connected of your left and right hemisphere. It
Mm-hmm.
has a lot of brain advantages. And so what are we listening to as children? You're growing up in West Africa, you're listening to drums all the time.
Right.
You're in Iraq. I mean, I was
Yeah.
in Northern Iraq working, and I was asking, are there any drummers? And they go, no. And then they picked up these drums and we played incredible rhythms. And I was like, wait, you just said you don't drum. Oh, no, these are just rhythms from our neighborhood, right? So it does really impact us.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up listening to, my father loved jazz. So I had a lot of musical listening as a child. And then as my early years of playing piano, as it really develops that neurological wiring. And it's interesting that the latest one that develops, that becomes hardwired, is at age 9, is this music intelligence. So we're wired, our solid wiring for language is really young. It's like 2, 3, math is like 4 or 5, and then here we are, we're still learning music. We're still perceiving, we're still neurologically soft wiring, slowly finding that connectivity. And I have to say that people that come from musical cultures, Sweden, and Cuba or Iraq, where people are playing and singing and they're more immersed in it. When I was in the Soviet Union, I felt, in Russia, in my Up With People days, I couldn't believe there were so many instruments in every home.
Yeah.
I was like, Eastern Europeans are really engrossed in music.
Yeah.
There was pianos and balalaikas, and people had lots of cultural songs. So I think it's important for just encouraging listeners who care about health, who care about your own soul, as you talk about the soul, that the best way you can love yourself, I think, is playing music. I mean, most people have that as a bucket list, that they wanted to learn an instrument, and it's good for so many aspects of us. And then there's also that aspect of aptitude. You just had a more high musical aptitude, and then you didn't get to pursue it because you became a physician,
Right.
but then hear that shamanic history came back into your life. You're
Mhm.
one of those people that has reunited those two worlds. You're a
Mhm.
bridge, you
Mhm.
know, of those worlds. It's a powerful combination. I really bow to you for that.
Right. I mean, it's so interesting. And I played the piano too as a child. So I think I was 6 when I started piano. I think I was 3 when I started, dancing lessons. So it was just, the culture too that I grew up in. But what if you are attracted to certain tones of a drum? What if you're attracted to either, let's say, the low tones, like the big drum? So I love that deep sound personally, like the deep sounding drums. What does that tell you about that person? Like if you took me into a drum store, I would select the drum that has the deep, deep sound. I don't know why it is that I'm so attracted to it, but I don't know. It's like it resonates in the whole body. You can just feel it in a different way. It's so deep. Um, and that would be the first drum I pick out. So what does that tell you about me as a person? Do I crave that sound because I'm healing something, or is it just my preference, or what do you get from that?
It's more than a preference. I feel that it's the aspect of you that's kinesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
You like the feeling. When you said that, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, yep, that's it.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's more of an earthy, deep, animal hide, low end, bass drum.
Mm-hmm.
It holds you more to the earth. It's probably beneficial. I found it very
Right.
beneficial in my spiritual journey in times of strong Kundalini awakening.
Mm-hmm.
So helpful to drum. I mean, I had a
Yeah.
period, many of listeners can probably relate to these things where everybody wants to wake up, but it can be terrifying,
Yeah.
and you're like,
Yeah.
how do I get back? And
Mhm.
that's how I did it. And that's how shamans did it. They
Mhm.
drummed their way back
Mhm.
from other worlds. They get there
Right.
and come back.
Mhm.
And it's, we don't talk enough about the coming back,
Yeah.
right? Getting
Right.
back. So
Yeah.
I think it says you're kinesthetic,
Right.
you respond to that preference. And if you feel a resonance with the frame drum, I mean, like I did,
Mhm.
I have a resonance with the Sufis in general. I love
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
love. I love Rumi's poetry.
Right.
So it can
Yeah.
also be the cultural tradition. I
Yeah.
didn't really love playing the frame drum. When I first picked it up, I thought it was way too hard and
Right.
complicated and tinty. And then I found a larger frame drum because I'm attracted to the lower sounds.
Uh-huh.
And this is the largest frame drum they make, a 22-inch frame
Mhm.
drum. So yeah,
Right.
I think that it has to do with that. And then there's the practical side.
Mhm.
I would love to carry a really big buffalo drum, but if I'm drumming for 10, 20 minutes, I can't physically hold that.
Mhm.
So I really like to keep myself healthy with, I have a stand I put my djembe in, because I'm older and I don't want to have that pain in
Yeah.
my wrists. So
Mhm.
that's the one thing I'm always careful about is the sound is one thing, but then, I would love a huge carved djembe from the trees, but they're
Right.
really unrealistic for me to pick up.
Yeah. Right.
So I tend to look
Yeah.
for things that are low sound, but they're not too heavy for me to carry and play.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that low sound, right? So it's more grounding for me than the higher sound. But then when you look at my astrological chart, people always say, you're an air sign and there's so much air. And, I'm a medium, I work with the spirit world. So I always feel like I'm out there. I feel like the drum is what brings me back, right?
Totally.
It's a very grounding. So I think it's so interesting how, like you said, it's what my body wants. That's makes my body feel good. And for somebody else, it could be complete opposite. Like they're so grounded, they need to be more out there, right?
Yeah.
It's just fascinating what sounds that we attract our what we're attracted to in terms of sound, and it's the same with bowls, right?
Yep.
There's certain bowls, the big bowls. There's certain sounds that I'm more attracted to, and it's just interesting how, like you said, it's what the body wants. It's what
Have you
each person.
found the limit of that? Have you found any drum that was too low or a bowl that was too big? Like, I'm always
No,
interested in that too. Like,
not yet.
not yet.
Not
Yep.
yet. Yeah,
Yep.
it's fascinating. Like I really feel that's what the body wants. It's what the body needs is that uh, to make us more whole. And like people who are thinking of getting a drum, the one that you resonate with, like you were saying. It's just, what sound do you like? Not your partner, not your child, not your mom, but the sound that resonates with each of us, because I'm going to say we all need a certain frequency. And
that's
that's
what
the one we
created the drum
need.
set. The created the
Right.
drum set is the bass drum and the snare drum and the cymbal. And so that is what created the drum set sound, which is a pretty new instrument when we think about
Mm-hmm.
the rhythm of all time. And that's what created that, was that combining low and high. I
Yeah.
mean, really, it has all those elements. I was thinking about a client of mine in the psych hospital who had multiple personality disorder.
Mm.
And so she picked different drums to represent all her personalities. And then the goal was to create a symphony of them, which was what we did with a recording device. And we recorded all the drums together, and she wove them together, not together, but one at a time. And you could feel the different personalities coming and having their preferences. And in many ways, we all have those preferences. But I really think that for your connection, and when you held up that big drum in the screen, you should hold that up for people to see, because what a stunning drum. I mean, just you held it up, and when you spin it, you can see the inside of it. Oh,
Right.
I mean, that is.
Yeah, so it looks like this. It's a
And it
pretty
even
big
has
drum.
the two worlds. It even has
Right.
the line in the center from the skin of the
Yeah.
animal. It's really gorgeous.
It's a really big drum, and it has a great low sound. Right? The sound that I'm attracted to. Let's see if I can change the sound. There we go. Music sound is on. So the drum sounds. Okay, you ready?
Hold it a little closer to the mic.
All right. Let's see. Let's change this to gallery. There we go. Turn that off. There we go.
That sound is amazing.
Right.
And the mallet you're using is really nice. Is it a soft, puffy mallet or something?
Yeah, it's a soft, puffy one.
Yeah,
like exactly, it's a soft, puffy one. Yeah, it
sounds really good. The stick you use on the drum makes such a difference.
Yeah, and it has that really low sound, right? And so that's very grounding for me as a person. That's a very grounding sound. So,
and just now, I just met you.
Right.
I researched a lot and listened to some of your interviews and stuff, and I love your work. And I just think it was great. We both were looking at each other on the gallery, on the Zoom, while we were playing. And that reminds me of what I noticed happening in Iraq was I would try to learn rhythms, and they would tell me, just look at my eyes, not at my hands. And suddenly I'd play the rhythm.
Right.
And there's a transmission of energy that flows, this musical bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt it just now, even we're on a Zoom.
Right.
But just the flute, I guess my maybe last point is I would like to say is that the flute and the drum, to me, you see it, world cultures all have this combination. The drum is the earth, and the flute is literally the branch of the tree. It's the upward. As above, so below.
Yeah.
And to me, they're that vertical connectivity of, I want to be a light being on the planet, walking on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just beautiful. And I loved your analogy with the flute, right? The branch of the tree. So it's been such a pleasure to have you as a guest today. So for the listeners who feel inspired by your work, where can they connect with you and explore your books and trainings and courses and everything that you do?
Well, at upbeatdrumcircles.com, I have a free course you can grab there called 4 Essential Rhythms of Life. And that's a great place to start. You can play it on your body. In my classes now, I always start by teaching the rhythm on the body. Low is the belly, high is the chest. And you have these 2 notes that you can play.
Yeah.
And then I have other things available there. Yeah. And the thing that I'm most excited about is running this Global Rhythm Sangha, where we meet once a month on Zoom. You can check about on my website. It's called Global Rhythm Sangha because we have teachers from different world cultures every month, a different teacher. And my friend here in town, Walking Crow, taught us shamanic drumming this month. And then I had Jamie Papish teaching us Ayub. I had Nagme from Iran teaching us a rhythm. So we always get different rhythms. We have a teacher from Trinidad and Tobago next month. I really feel like in learning the rhythms of the world, we develop more loving kindness and compassion. I definitely saw that in my classes, that people who meet someone from Jamaica and learn to play Nyabingi, you care when you hear that there's been an earthquake somewhere. You feel a compassion, and you get to have the blessing, like to learn a drum rhythm from Sweden. We get to have the blessing of the culture in our beats.
Yeah, I love that. And we're going to put the website in the show notes as well so people can find what you're referencing easily and then just click on the link. And my last question to you is, what do you think is the meaning of life? Whatever comes.
Well, what came was laughing. So I guess, no. I have always wondered that too. Mm-hmm. I just think the meaning of life is learning. Yeah. And connecting. I really feel like it's been a blessing to meet you. When I was in Sweden, I had such a good time, and I did learn how to say, Jag älskar dig.
Yeah. Jag älskar dig. Which means I love you.
Love you.
In Swedish, yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing all your knowledge with the listeners today.
I can't thank you enough for inviting me. I feel very honored to be a guest in your incredible work. Such a pioneer of the bridge. And I just want to say, happy drumming.
Love it. Thank you so much. As we conclude this episode, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude for your presence within my community. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe, comment, like, and share this podcast episode. Join my free newsletter in the show notes and receive new podcast episodes delivered right to your inbox. If you resonate with the interconnectedness of mind, body, and soul, and are motivated to embark on a journey of personal healing, I invite you to connect with me at drlotte.com. Together, we can pave a path towards transformative healing in your own life.